Hi, welcome to the next edition of watching the standard meta. Seeing the changes, see how actually the meta is shaping out. Of course, today we're going to be talking about standard. If you're interested in the Pioneer, watching the meta, check the other channel. I just where I cover my Pioneer content for the most part, besides the one that's special coming up. Eventually, maybe I switch it over to this channel primarily, since this is more for competitive Magic. So you could argue maybe it should be here. But we're going to keep it over there, at least until, I don't know, maybe in a month or so. Maybe I'll switch it. We'll see. So we're going to get into the deck lists and see how they actually have shifted the past week. Got 3 decks to talk about that I think are interesting. One of which is a deck I really like for Pioneer. So glad to see they got a 5-0 in Standard. I might actually play it on this channel again for porting over to Pioneer. Even though technically it's not porting because it's sort of a deck in Pioneer, but not really. So let's get into the actual meta shifts first. So Pixie has got a little bit more meta percentages, 2.5, pretty good jump. Red Deck Wins got 6 points since the last few weeks. We have Zur taking a little bit of a dip, but not really. I mean, 0.3 is not much of a hit at all. Now, Gruul Aggro take a huge shift here for 2.3. Now, most likely, those people have migrated to Red Deck Wins, which could be either Mono Red or Boros. Control is gaining a little bit more traction. Probably because I don't know how good this matchup is into Pixie. I know Zur Overlords is pretty reasonable into Pixie, but if aggro decks are going to be this high percentage, like 18 to 19%, that's pretty bad time for Zur Overlords. And Omniscience also is probably pretty good into Zur Overlords. Being a combo deck, if it actually can get the combo going off pretty fast, you definitely could take that over by pure aggression. Mid-range got 0.75% change. Yeah, it's like not really much to talk about there either. 2% adjustment towards Dimir Bounce and the Pixie, so these two are kind of going together, taking up about arguably 19% of the meta. It's about at parity with the aggro deck too, so got that going for it, I guess. Jeskai Oculus stays the same. Gruul Leyline gets 1 point adjustment. Gruul Boros Burn gets a 0.75% adjustment, which I said isn't really all that much. Basically went from probably 0.93 to 1.63. There's Gruul Delirium. So like this is part of the lower or mid to lower tier 2. Not a lot of adjustments and movements. So when you look at this, you have your tier 1 decks right here. I guess you kind of have most things covered in this upper tier 2 to tier 1. Mid-range barely scrapes by, right? You could consider Bounce and Pixie to be mid-range, but it's kind of like a mid-rangey tempo deck, so I don't know. It's not traditional, kind of like that, which that's what they kind of prey on, is mid-range, because they just kind of take advantage of the fact that you're paying 4 mana for a Shield Red. Not really all that impressive to them, and they just out-tempo you in that, because you're paying 4 or 5 mana for your spells, and they're able to just bounce it and make you discard it for like 3 mana. So it's not really all that cost effective for you. But overall, like the shifts in meta seems to be at parity for the most part. There's not really that many big winners and losers. Like I said, it's more of just a shifting going on. So like from Gruul aggro to red aggro, I can't even really argue. Like I guess that's really it. Like the rest of these decks are just kind of gaining traction. They look like they're more taking points away from this half of the grid. So your mid to lower tier 2 are just not showing up anymore, and everyone's gravitating towards the top. Now, that could be argued. Like you could argue that's because of RC prep. I believe the next one's going to be in a few weeks or so. So I mean, it makes sense. Standard is I believe the current RC season, which is why it's seeing a lot of play. But like I said, I got 3 decks to talk about. Let's get into those. So someone piloted this Gruul mid-range pile, which looks kind of sweet. So if you look at it, I think I swear I thought I'd seen 3 copies of the boat. Maybe I'm misremembering it. No, I guess it must be a different deck. But this one is more of a ramp deck. You know, it says mid-range. It has Overlords. It has Pollen. Make sure you hit your land drops. Removal with Torch the Tower, plus a decent amount of removal with Brotherhood in. For closers, we have Nisa. We have some Carnosaurs and the Overlords, and Dracosaur, which is nice against mid-range. Let's have a couple of Lukas and a Vivian for a little bit more mid-range pieces that are grindy. A couple Basilisk Callers in the board. I guess this is good with Overlord. I'm not really sure what else you're bringing this in for. Patchwork, pretty good for enchantment and flying hate. Ooze for graveyard hate. Spark Hunter, not sure what this is for. We have Bailoff for Pixie and Bounce. Aggro, we have another Buzzard End. Potentially also, Bailoff's pretty good there too because it gains 4. A couple more Lukas. That's kind of weird. I guess you're trimming Nisa for them. So I'm not really sure why you want more Lukas. Like, that seems excessive. Like, I don't even play that many Lukas in Pioneer, in my dinosaur deck. I do sideboard some for control, but I don't really know if you need them for control. It is kind of weird, though, that this deck has not played a single Cavern of Souls, considering the fact that they have, 6 avatars, and they have 6 dinosaurs, plus these, actually, 9 dinosaurs. So I feel like they should be playing some number of Cavern of Souls. Just kind of a free roll to make sure that against control, you're good, right? You don't necessarily need anything else. And if these are for control, I think I would rather just have more copies of the Toxic Dinosaur with haste that can't be countered. But then again, you could just play Cavern of Souls. Another throwback for a little bit more graveyard hate, plus artifact enchantment hate, and a little bit of life gain. That is Gruul mid-range. Let's get into the next list. So next is the deck that I was thinking of that is playing the new vehicle. And it's like a green-white stompy deck with Tristani, Steed, some tutor targets with Might, Inspector, Recruit, Llanowar Elf for ramping into your Gearhulk, and a Fungus and a Reliquary, which are nice tutor targets for the Gearhulk. We have Leash in case we face Bounce, so they make us discard it, we get it into play. We also have Bailoff for that too. Also pretty reasonable against aggro, like I said in the last one. We have Shelter by Ghost for a little bit of removal. Parting Gust to blink, plus additional copies of removal. We have a couple Maliras, decent against, I believe, Toxic, so that kind of helps a little bit, plus a 3/3 for 2. Not a terrible stat. Sideboard, we have more removal of Parting Gust or Evil, depending on what we want. Against aggro, we also have a Split Up, and we also have some Rest in Peace for Graveyard Hate. Nisa, probably for control, if I had to guess. Ghost Vacuum for more Graveyard Hate, plus Soul Guide Lantern that you also get with Gearhulk. Another Fungus for artifact and enchantment removal you can get with Gearhulk. I'm not sure if it's better than Haywire Might, but that's up for the person that's running the deck to decide. I guess this does help you ramp into your Gearhulk earlier. And like I said, we have Split Up for a little bit of sweeper type effect. We have one more deck to talk about. Let's get into that. Last but not least is Gruul Delirium. Beastie, some FOMO. We have some some Wicker Folk, some Flytrap. Canker Bloom as a nice little proliferate ability, plus artifact enchantment hate. For removal, we have Bolt and Tower. Since one's an instant, one's a sorcery, helps with Delirium. We have Urge for a little bit of way to close out the game. Sea to Hope to fill up a yard, plus Ren to help fill up the yard. That's also a Planeswalker to help with Delirium. A couple copies of Rage just to make your opponent's life horrible. And we have Beat Down for a little bit of fight effect. Breakout, pretty decent with FOMO. Just get it down, attack twice in one turn. Even just getting a 3/3 for 2, pretty solid with haste. Sideboard against aggro, we have Torch plus Pyroclasm. Artifact enchantment removal, we have Canker Bloom, potentially Formation. We have Barrage as a way to hit on against decks that are tempo oriented, that have counter magic. Chandra, I'm guessing, is for grinding matchups to help fill up our yard. We have a couple links in case your opponent is greedy with their mana base, like Domain Overlords. Sharp Scrapshooter for artifact enchantment removal. We have a Outpace Oblivion. This is, I don't really know what it is. I'm guessing it's the quote-unquote threaten effect, but I could be wrong. I expect to be wrong, because, I can't really see it, and I've never seen this card in my life. I also haven't really paid attention to this set hardly at all. Then we have Frenzy for additional copies of removal. So that is our Gruul Delirium deck. That's all I have to talk about for you guys today. Like I said, if you want to watch the Pioneer version, go check out my other channel. Subscribe over there too. And I'll talk to you guys next time.